This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the Let's Go Win podcast, and where we are here every single time to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy, and get better every single day. And I was blessed to be on these folks' podcast. We had a great time and a great talk, and I know you guys will get the same. And we're going to be focusing on some stuff that really is going to help you be happy, healthy, wealthy. That's the cool part of this. Molly Ruland is the CEO and founder of Heartcast Media, a digital content agency focused on content marketing for founders, CEOs, coaches, and brands. Molly specializes in producing high-quality branded video content for businesses that want to generate revenue and create strategic relationships through content marketing. Matt Billman is the operations manager at Heartcast Media and oversees all client productions and content. He also works as a full-time hockey coach for a nationally ranked girls youth team. Ooh. What's up, you guys? How we doing?
What's up, JM? Thanks for having us. We're super excited about it.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah, and I see, Matt, I mean, not only do you coach, you literally have the hockey behind you where you literally drawing up plays. Is that what's happening over there?
Yeah, that's the big whiteboard. I get a lot of flack for it, but it's pretty big. It takes up majority of the wall. It's all recruiting. It's all scheduling. It's the plays on one side. It's this, it's that. It's pretty much everything. Yeah.
Well, when you're a nationally ranked team, I suppose you got to keep your brain in it, but
that's it.
Tell me about Heartcast Media, guys. What are you guys working on? I mean, I know digital content, that's kind of a big thing in our world today. So how did you guys get to do this stuff? And it's such a valuable asset, and yet for some of us, it's really hard to understand. How the heck do you do this well? Is that where you guys come into play?
Pretty much. I've owned a multimedia company for 23 years. So I've been doing marketing and branding and content creation, but, it was just called audio and video back then, and websites and things like that. Right. So it's a lot of years of experience, but I made a shift in 2018 when I formed Heartcast Media to serve businesses that bridge the gap between, in the creative community, there's like kids making amazing videos with iPhones and producing their own music and doing amazing stuff with no money, no budget, no, training whatsoever. And then you come into the business world and it was like, $10,000 for one video. And it's not even, it doesn't even make any sense, and it's not good, and it's not SEO weighted, and it's not going to work. And so I knew that there was a middle ground between those two places to provide a sustainable option for businesses to create high quality, right? Because if you're creating content for your business, it needs to be high quality, right? So that was our goal, to step in and fill that gap in a very strategic, long game way, but with immediate high quality results.
Isn't that amazing? The kids of today's generations, literally the job skills that they have, they may not even realize that. And companies right now may be going, yeah, right. But the truth is they're training, right? That phone in front of their face all the time. It's like they are getting the skills out of the gate. My kids laugh at when I'm doing videos. They're like, well, why didn't you do this, this, and that? And I'm like, I push play. So it is pretty remarkable how the world has shifted so quickly, and good for you guys to get ahead of that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
So Matt, operations, man, tell me what you do, because operations to me sounds like work, and I'm not a huge fan of doing lots of that really organized work. But tell me what you're doing in your world, brother.
Well, I think we've changed my title, like 3 or 4 times, because we just keep growing. It's like, you kind of do this instead, so let's change it to this. But I guess a little bit of everything. So, when a client books a show, I'm always the guy that's in that meeting with them, or in the recording. I'm jumping in, I'm giving them the spiel. The client's usually pretty comfortable, but every time there's a guest, I make it so that the client doesn't have to do anything pretty much. So the guest gets in, the client gets in, and I'm running the guest through, this is our recording platform. This is what it's going to do. I kind of ease them up, because a lot of people have not done a lot of these before, and they're like, I'm freaking out, or I don't know what to do. Or it's like, you got to tilt your laptop this way. Can you please put in headphones? Can you do all that? It's just like the basics checklist I go through every single time. But just kind of easing them and making sure the client really doesn't have to do any work besides show up and ask their questions and perform their interview. So we take kind of all that stress away from them in terms of that. And then after that, it's just pretty much as soon as that's done, it's start the raw production of everything. We use the system Trello that we've used since we've started as a company. And it just tracks everything, and we let clients be hands-on with everything. So my job is to kind of ping those clients every time we're doing something so that they feel involved, that they're watching each episode go through our workflow and seeing everything develop and process and seeing the graphics and the content get uploaded. So I'm just kind of their guy that they need to talk to if anything goes wrong. And then I just pretty much work with all of our people, our SEO people, our video editors, our graphic designers, and be like, hey, we need this, and just kind of keep them on task and on track so that Molly doesn't have to keep checking in on everybody every single day. And if there's a big problem, then I go to her, but just kind of just keeping the wheels turning a little bit, just keeping everybody on track, on pace, and doing all that good stuff.
He's the best.
We all need Matts in our life, don't we? Molly, congrats. That's awesome.
Tell me about it. He's the best. Seriously.
You know, it's interesting. We were talking off air as well. What's funny to me about podcasts, and then we'll get into more, what you guys are doing. But what's interesting to me about podcasting is when people are like, oh, I can't do a podcast. That's nervous. I'm like, it's you and I doing a Zoom StreamYard. We're literally talking, but it is funny how it gets built up to this, like, oh man, I got to sound perfect. I got to look. It's like, we're going to talk. Just do what you're doing right now. It's
the thing I always tell them is, I was like, my always thing is, we're not live. It's literally just us three sitting here, and I'm going to disappear. I'm going to be in the background. You two are just having a conversation, and then I'm going to edit it. So if you do screw anything up, you're covered. Like, you're good.
We got you. Yeah, exactly.
What if you were to talk to everybody, because obviously digital media is such a huge part of our world, and it's everyone listening to some degree, they utilize it, right? Whether they like that or they don't, it's a part of it. If you were to give, like, I don't know, your top 3 things to do, or maybe, and most importantly, not to do, what do you guys see out there that you're like, man, you guys make your lives this much better by just doing a couple of these things?
Don't buy a Yeti.
Yeah, don't buy a Yeti. We always got to get that in, like, once an
we
episode.
Do it every single episode for everything.
But no, I think the number one thing is, with a branded podcast, for example, you have all these different options, right? There's so many shiny objects. You got Threads, you got this. Should I go on TikTok? Should I do whatever? A branded podcast, our philosophy is pick 12 people you want to do business with or continue to do business with, and interview them and do a really great job and build the relationship and focus on that. And then the extra benefit is all a podcast is a Trojan horse of SEO, because you've got a blog post, you've got metadata, you've got a YouTube video. It's just SEO, right? Everything is SEO. A podcast description should really just be an opportunity to cram as many keywords and less adjectives into a description as possible, because it'll get picked up by Google, by YouTube, all of that. So people are driven to your content. So it doesn't matter if you interview 12 relevant people or 12 irrelevant people, you're still going to get that content. But if you're going to interview 12 people, why not make it people you actually want to do business with anyway, or somebody who can introduce you to a group of lots of people who you might want to do business with, right? Or client retention. Do you have a big product, a big ticket item? Maybe you want to interview a couple people you want to make sure renew, right? It's the gift of reciprocity from any direction. You do a great intro, a great interview, that person likes you, they want to reciprocate, you're starting off in a better position. And then from there, you've got all those social media assets. So you're getting all that social proof, you're getting your content calendar filled anyway. But 12, strategic, targeted, laser focused episodes will do more benefit for you and your business than 78 randoms, that don't really have a purpose, especially if you're a business owner. If you're trying to be a podcaster, that's one thing. If you're trying to be a business owner, that's another. Like, you've moved out of like the day-to-day, or so you're more interested in being like a podcast. Like, you really enjoy this. Like, we talked about this, like, you really enjoy it. Most business owners are like, I don't have time to do that. That's not feasible, right? And so that's the biggest thing, is like, pick something that you can get the most bang for your buck, right? And to me, a branded podcast is a no-brainer. It's cheaper than flying to conventions. It's, better than going to BMI meetings every Thursday morning, So big plan there. One thing I would say not to do is don't fall for we're not fish. We're all swimming around in this big old fishbowl, but we are not fish, right? And don't get fooled by the shiny object. Like, Threads is cool, sure, if you think your audience is there, but straightest path to the money is what I've gleaned in trying to be a successful business owner. And so don't do everything, because if it's not getting results, don't do it,
Yeah. And kind of our goal specifically with our clients is we want that email a few months after we've started production of this podcast and it's been live, that we get the email from them being like, and we got one, a week ago or 2 weeks ago from one of our clients being like, hey, I just got like 2 or 3 new clients and it's all because of the podcast. That's what they referred to. It all came back and I've got more business now. I've got this, I've got that. And it's just like, that's what we want.
Clear, direct, A to B, cause and effect,
That I have not actually, I love that, having 12 very strategic, as you said, very clear, intentional people to scale. You're actually going small to go large. And one of the things, as I'm looking at your background, and I know where you're located, and I'm envious because I love it so much. Tell us kind of what you chose, man. Molly, you went down a different path. You're like, look, I love what I'm doing. However, I think I can do it in a different world. And you're doing that. It's remarkable. And I think people want to hear this stuff. They want to hear, okay, great, your company's doing well, but I'm also living the life that I did by design. What did you choose to do a couple of years ago?
Well, adapt, right? Adapt or die. Like we had a beautiful brick and mortar studio in downtown Washington, DC, and DuPont Circle, and a castle mansion. I mean, we had like one of the coolest studios ever. We had James Comey, and we had like crazy people, Eric Holder. We had in Washington, DC. We had excellent clients, oldest law firm in DC coming in. We love Miller and Chevalier, right? We love those guys, but like, we were very DC, very brick and mortar. And then the pandemic hit and everything changed. And we were just about a year old at that point. So we were just about to start making money. We were like, we got this. It's going to be great. And then that happened. And, everybody was saying, well, give it a couple of weeks. And, at this point, everybody's wearing spacesuits to Costco. I'm like, this is not going to be you remember how scared we all were in that first period, right? And they're like, it'll be a couple of weeks. I'm like, you need to watch more news and read more books. This is not going to be over in a couple of weeks. And so in May of 2020, closed the lease on the studio, took a hit. Everybody was urging me not to do that, including the landlord, I might add. And I just said, this isn't going to end quickly. And I ended the lease on my house because I had an Airbnb in the basement. And I basically just cut everything off, stopped the bleeding immediately. Took a few weeks, went to North Carolina, put my feet in the sand. I was barefoot for the first time in 20 years after living in the city, and I just reminded myself that, I'm not a city girl. I'm a nature girl. I want to be barefoot and a little dirty and like outside in a wet bathing suit for half the day. Like, that to me is the good life. And I just took a couple weeks and then I went back to Matt and I said, all right, we got to get better at remote than everybody else. And we got to get better at the back end of Zoom settings than everybody else. And we got to streamline our processes faster and better and easier than everybody else as quickly as possible. And because we focus on podcasting as a business development tool, business development still needed to take place. Those lawyers still needed to talk to other people to get those huge contracts, but they couldn't go to conventions and they couldn't go across the world anymore. And so we just doubled down on that and grew the business 200% in 2020. In the midst,
because we basically told every client, they were emailing us and just like, what are we going to do? We're like, you know what? We pretty much shut down for 2 months and be like, give us 2 months. We'll email you once we have a plan. And we just took those 2 months, sat down, buckled in and just hammered through everything and just started learning it. And then once we thought we had a pretty good system down that we could at least begin with, obviously we knew we were going to have to keep growing and we wouldn't really know all the ins and outs until we started these remote stuff. But we felt good and we were just like, all right, let's do it. And we started it and then we learned what worked, what didn't, and just steadily grew from that.
It's actually beautiful advice that rarely, you said 20 years for you, Molly. I'm not sure for you, Matt, but I know for myself, getting quiet, spending that time to really back away and say, oh shit, all right, the world's changed. I actually need to slow down in order to grow that 200% like you guys did. People don't do that though. People are, I mean, we're hustle bustle. We got to go. We got to figure it out. And we're in this like chaotic state when the truth is, if you really want to plan, whether it's your business, your personal life, whatever your next move is, you actually have to slow down. So that's brilliant. I don't know if to do that intentionally, to go to North Carolina, put the feet in the sand, what a great idea. But I mean, that's how Let's Go Win was created, as I got quiet in 3 days in a tent, meditating with nothing else. And people are like, that's crazy. Well, guess what? It is crazy. And it created the life that I really want. Why don't we just slow down every once in a while, you guys?
Yeah, it opens the brain up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's easy not to. And, I'll never forget, I was walking down the beach with my dog, who's now 21 years old. We've been spending a lot of time together, me and old Liverpool. And I was walking down the beach talking to her, because that's what you do when you're a single person with a dog. You just talk to them a lot. And I was like, Lily, what a life. I was like, imagine if we lived here. And then I literally like stopped in my tracks and I looked at her and I said, imagine if we lived here. And it was that moment of, that super clarity of being like, wait, this could be our life. This is North Carolina. This is not Bora Bora. Like, this is not an unreasonable goal. You know what I mean? And so I did it, and I convinced somebody to rent me an Airbnb for another 4 months, like even in the pandemic, because like, no Airbnbs were like shut down, but I was an Airbnb host for so long that I like finagled my way in. And yeah, I mean, it did take getting quiet, and just at the end of the day, it's like, how are you serving your clients, right? And it was so, chaotic, and everybody was like, pivot. Remember, that was like the word of, and I was like, if one more person says pivot, I'm gonna punch myself in the face. Like, like me and my friend Katie Nelson, we would talk a little smack, and we're like, man, we're entrepreneurs. Like, we're built for this. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, your market could dry up in a night. Like, yes, the pandemic sucks, don't get me wrong, but this idea that pivot, change your whole business, be something you're not. You went from being a photographer, now you're a caterer, like that. No, you're abandoning your post, man. Like, you need to double down, figure out what your clients want, and adjust. And that's what all entrepreneurs do all the time. It was just on steroids in 2020, but just calm down. And for me, it was really like, to get to the Costa Rica point, like, what do you want in life, right? Like, what do you really want? Like, what is your perfect day? Like, where do you wake up? Do you lay in bed for an hour? 3? Is it cold outside? Is it hot outside? What do you do for the first 3 hours of your day? How many hours a day do you want to work? Do you want to own a boat? You want to live in the desert? Like, really, really, really think about, what do you want in your life, and then reverse engineer it. And I think when you get really clear on that, it's a lot easier. And for me, I just decided, I'm going to go to Costa Rica now, because we're all working remotely. There's no reason for me to pay in this expensive city that is not the city that I love anymore. Still didn't have a brick and mortar again. Still don't need one. No. And I thought, I'm going to go to Costa Rica now, because what if I plan for 10 years to go to Costa Rica, and then I get down there and I hate it? What if I stack all my bets on this dream and then I hate it? And so I was like, why delay that? Why not go now? And so that's what I did. And so it's not that life is perfect by any means or super easy. I have a great view. I still work too many hours some days, but I made the decision that for my life, what I want is, I want to spend the rest of my life looking at beautiful things.
Yeah, getting that clarity. And I know that sounds cliche, but it is true. When you actually slow down and say, what the heck do I want? And by the way, if what you're doing now isn't it, you can change. I won't even say the word pivot, because I was like you. I was like, please don't say that again. Like, I can't. I can't do it. No more of that. One of the things that you guys talk about, one of my favorite topics, is leadership. And for you, Molly, to have that foresight as a leader to say, you know what, this is what we really need to do. And Matt say, cool, man, Let's figure it out. You know what? We're going to shut down for 2 months. No big deal. It's not like I have a mortgage and stuff to pay for. Oh yeah, actually I do, but yeah, let's shut down. I trust you. I trust in our team. Talk to me about leadership and Matt, because you experience that. What are the qualities in Molly as a teammate, as a leader, for you to really say, you know what? I believe in you. I believe in our cause enough to, let's shut everything down for 2 months. Because that's not an easy thing, man. I put myself in your shoes and say, no, this is a terrible idea.
No, I mean, it's always been easy. I mean, I guess I shouldn't say easy because we've had our ups and downs, not me and her, just like as a company and growing and learning through the pains. But it's easy to stick around and just have that trust because we've seen how good we can be. And obviously certain factors always factor in where it's just like, oh, we took a little hit, or maybe something comes around where you get a bad employee at some point and business struggles a little bit and things don't look great, but it's like, screw it. Why would I just jump ship and make things harder? And try to find something new to do. It's just like, this is what we've worked on because we've built things to a certain point. You know, we went through some issues towards the end of last year, early this year. And I think at this point, I'm like 3-4 years in now. So yeah, it was a month before the pandemic. And we've gone through so much in terms of, like Molly said earlier, getting out of the studio and building this online virtual company and expanding our services. So just because things we hit a little rough patch, why just kind of jump ship? After we've spent so much time building something, we're finally kind of starting to see where it's taken us and where it's built us to. And Molly's always been great. She gives me a lot of freedom. I can kind of I'm not going to say whatever I want because I obviously still have to do my work, but I can, if I'm working a little bit through the day, or if like it comes up where I have to be gone because when my hockey schedule hits and it's 8 months of practices and games and I'm gone every single week, and I'm like, hey, I have to leave on a Friday. Might not be back till Tuesday for this trip to California or something, but I've got my laptop. That's the beauty of virtual, right? I can take my laptop. I can work throughout the weekend. I can do everything there. So she gives me a lot of freedom because I think my trust in her comes from her trust in me and completing my task, getting my work done, helping continuing to grow and everything like that. And yeah, it's just been easy. We've had a really good relationship since we've started. Haven't seen her in a couple of years, but even when we were in studio, we used to have a really good time. Friday afternoon to finish our last client, she pops into the office because I'm usually there all day, have a shot of Jameson or something, celebrate the weekend, and then just go from there. And it was just always enjoyable because you want to have somebody you enjoy working for and being around and kind of talking to on the daily. And not every, I guess, boss can kind of be like that. You want them to, but no, Molly's been fantastic. And it's easy to not, or I should say it's easy to just stick to what we believe in here and kind of just keep growing and see what it actually can become. Because we usually set goals a good bit every 6 months to a year, and just like, what if we do this next year? What if the year after that we do this? What if we can accomplish this within 4 months? Let's see if we can do it.
Yeah, and you bring up a bunch of really good points, but the one I want to focus on is you bought into the vision, whether it's Molly's vision, a shared vision, regardless that it even had to change as the world shifted. You bought into the vision. Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about, you mentioned the goals, and I want to talk about communication because the world shifted, pivoted, whatever. We're in this virtual world. You guys have done it again. Maybe it's not seamless, but it seems like everything went pretty smoothly for you. You grew in that time. Talk to me about the communication that you guys, how you do that, because I think so often we lose that. Like, how do you effectively work with someone else in, like you said, I haven't seen Molly in a couple of years, but yet we're growing this business together. What does that look like for your team as you guys have continued to build Heartcast Media?
Well, I spent the first year building all the systems for Heartcast Media, right? So like when somebody books online and they fill out the form, it creates a Trello card, it goes right to the board, the team gets added, everybody knows the process. So we had this system built. It was like we built a stadium, but we had no fans yet, but the seats were there, the boards were there, everything was there. And then we started filling it in. So we actually ebb and flow very well with a flux of business because the systems are solid and haven't changed. I love Slack. Trello and Acuity and Zapier, they make sure everybody sees the same thing. So that eliminates 80% of the problem, right? Nobody's asking me for a headshot because it's in the same place as everything else and everybody sees it. Simple, easy, And then me and Matt use Slack a lot during the day, but I'm not a Slack person who's like, just because I Slacked you, you need to respond. I might Slack him. He might respond 10 hours later. I'm not even paying attention. Sometimes he responds. I don't even see it. So I try not to be a nagger. It was really nice, actually. Thank you, Matt. I've never, it was almost uncomfortable for me, to hear those things. I'm like, oh God, can I like run out of this recording real quick? But, I have a lot of trust in Matt too. And so it's, and I want him to have a good life, and he's a great coach, and he's coaching like teenage girls. And I think that's rad. Why would I stop like a solid human dude from influencing young women, like in a positive way? Like the world needs more of that. I can run a session. It's not that big of a deal. And me and Matt are a lot alike. Like, I'll ping him on the weekend and I'll say, hey, you don't have to respond to this, but I'm working on this. And he's like, oh, I'm here. I'm working on these episodes. Like we have similar, there's Friday nights where he's like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I'm drinking a Jameson, working on this stuff. He's like, me too, like, and not because he feels obligated to, but we just have a similar like work ethic, I think,
It's a job where you enjoy, that you don't feel like, all right, if I'm on my computer by 9, I'm getting off right at 5 o'clock or right at 4 o'clock, or right, my session is done. I'm like, oh, you know what? I got some things to do. It's Saturday. I don't got much going on. Let me do like 3 or 4 hours of work. Why not get ahead on some things and make some edits and go from there, and just kind of work when I want to work. And that's usually a good bit of the time. And it's just easy to do.
And then we also have weekly meetings, 2 weekly meetings on Mondays and Fridays in the morning. And that helps a lot. Touch base. How was your weekend? What happened this week? Even though they're right on top of each other, it feels like different weeks, you know what I mean? And so it's good to wrap up. It's good to start the week off and wrap up. So even though we haven't been in the same room, we spend a lot of screen time together,
Yeah, so I heard a couple things I just want to highlight so everybody heard it, that we're clear on goals. Like here, I think you said every 6 months you're checking in at least on here's our goals. Then we have our check-ins on Monday and Fridays. Again, not to micromanage in any way, shape, or form, but rather, hey, how you doing? What are you working on? Everything good? Do you need any support? How's your shot of Jameson, which seems to be also par for the course with this group, which is awesome. I love that. But the truth is 71% of employees currently walking down the road are not engaged. That is what the studies are telling us. And yet you guys have fostered and created an environment where clearly that's not the case. You're enjoying your work, you're building, you're a lot of good things are happening. I have to attribute that to leadership. That's just where it starts. And so one of the questions that I love to ask is, and I see it here on your topics as well, which is, what is that number one characteristic that a great leader needs to have so that we can build this model, that we can build this amazing team environment? So 71% of people aren't feeling that way, but rather can feel the way that you guys are feeling.
I think humility, knowing when you're wrong and apologizing, being a human, not pretending like you're the one who knows everything, being authentic, being a real person. I've read a lot of books on leadership. I really got hooked because of John C. Maxwell, the 21 Irrefutable Laws. I read that like once a year. And I think maybe more than a year passed since the last time I read it, because it hurt a little bit. I was like, oh, and I, immediately implemented some changes. But I think leadership is just a constant journey, right? It's like a garden that you constantly have to tend to. And sometimes things happen in your life that make you a less, great leader than other times. And, sometimes it's easier to be a leader than not. And so I think it's just like humbling yourself enough to know when you're not getting it right, or at least know that there are times when you're not getting right, even if you can't identify them directly. And then just trying to improve and treat people like humans and not employees or workers, but humans. And that was, the biggest motivator in maintaining the business in the pandemic. It was so that everybody had a job, because if I had closed the company, there's people all over the world who would have suffered. We have team members in Vietnam, Philippines, Dubai at one point. So it was a global pandemic, right? And so there was a sense of obligation there that, like, if I close the company, then these people can't eat and they're not going to find another job right now, And so that's kind of the glue that holds us together. And so there's definitely been times, Matt mentioned bad hire. There's been times when we've all made sacrifices on paychecks and took hits for the greater good. And I'm like so humbled and almost brought to tears every time I think about that, because if not, I'm just a talking head, you know what I mean? Without them, there is no Heartcast Media. I never ever lose track of that, even if I'm not always stepping up to the plate the best possible way, I'm trying.
Well, the book you mentioned, if people haven't read it, is may arguably one of the greatest leadership books of all time. The 21 Irrefutable Laws, unbelievable. I want to ask you, just because the way you speak, I'm going to guess that Heartcast, there's a meaning behind that. And maybe I'm taking a leap here, maybe I'm wrong, but one of the things you talked about is being human. You use words that you don't typically hear of CEOs that are like rad, and like fun things. Tell me about the Heartcast. Where did that name come from?
Well, my previous company was called One Love Massive, and it was 19-year-old company, and it was, good music, good people, good times. And it was all about collaboration, community, art, music, culture. It was very much, we the people driven, sharing good things, really supporting the community, and very DC centric. And so I've always looked at it as being a person who builds stages or creates platforms, but always behind the curtain and always with the greater good, one love, one heart, one destiny, right? Like we're all one. And I think that like the more we can connect with that, the better. And so, of course, I had to bring a little bit of that with me when I formed Heartcast, because, I believe that listening is the revolution, right? When we can start listening to each other, then things start to change a little bit. And Heartcast Media is a part of that. And some of our podcasts are, whatever, about sanctions and stuff, but some of them are really heartfelt. And so, every one of them has value for a different reason, but we're definitely interested in elevating voices that want to make the world a better place, even if it's just by not elevating voices that don't.
I love that. And I think more companies, if they can bring that human side of things, that's how you watch these companies grow, when they actually do that. What listening is the revolution. I'm borrowing that, by the way. That is brilliant. It'll definitely be in the description because it's awesome. I want to ask you guys, with the world of AI that we live in, how is that helping, affecting, changing, enhancing? I'm not sure what the right words are anymore. I think everybody needs to hop on board. Genie's out of the bottle. We should be using it. What are you guys seeing in terms of AI? How are you using it to your advantage? Is it helping growth, or how are you using it? I'll just leave it there.
It helps everything. We're taking hours out of our workday now. It's insane. Because a couple of years ago, it's record an episode, put it through a service, and then get on and literally kind of read through the entire transcript as you do it, and then do every single thing that way, pull stuff as you read the transcript. Now we get everything in 2 minutes. With the one system we use, we get show notes, we get titles, and then we just go through and edit. So a 3-hour job for one set of transcription and show notes is now a 20 to 30 minute job. Just from that perspective, it's changing a lot of things. And there's a lot of stuff we have our eye on too, with Adobe coming out with a lot of new AI features with editing and stuff like this that we want to try. And pretty much every time something new comes out, we're like, let's sign up for a trial to see if this works. Because there's a lot we've used and we're like, not going to do it. And there's a lot we've used, we're like, oh, this is going to completely change how we do things and operate and help us. Yeah.
And there's always a human element to all of our production. There's always people behind it. But come on, man, it's an hour-long episode. We can throw that into an AI program and get key takeaways. And, and you can tell AI to focus more on keywords, which is not necessarily a human way of writing, but it's all metadata. It's that Trojan horse of SEO again. So it's not about saying this amazing, wonderful guest who discovered new, wonderful places. It's like, no, we're talking about disruption and technology and client acquisition. Like it's not an intuitive way to speak. So for us, if we can trim that down, then we can focus on better things like, how are we setting their, clients up for that episode? Do they have a good strategy? Are they amplifying the content instead of spending so much time on repetitive tasks, But at the same time, podcasting is people. It'll never go away. So it's like, in this age of AI, the more artificial things get, the more people are going to crave actual people.
This is the thing I hope everybody hears is it's not replacing your job, it's enhancing it. Now, you started down that path of when we take it and take a 3-hour project, now it takes 20 minutes. We have more time to do cool things, whether that's in the business or personally or both, hopefully, right? A little work-life balance is not a bad thing. Right. And this is what I want people to hear. It's like, look, stop burying your head in the sand, right? Like, it is out, utilize it to your advantage, stop frowning upon it because it is everywhere. And I think it's beautiful. I really do, man. I really do. What are you guys working on? What's kind of the next project for Heartcast Media? What's the future? I know you're growing substantially. So what are you guys seeing? What can we look forward from you?
You know, we really pride ourselves on staying the course and being really good at what we do. So we're going to continue to meet the needs of our clients, really focus on podcasting, podcast booking, really centered all around podcasts and as a branded, business development tool. But for the company, I'm really, I just finished, Donald Miller's new book, how to run a small business or something along those lines. And he talks about writing a mission statement with revenue goals so that your team now understands like, yeah, we want to do quality work, but why? We want to do quality work so we can reach $1 million so that all of the employees can have the ultimate amount of financial stability and job security, and we can all live better lives. Like, that's much better than like, we strive to be wholesome and good. Like, all right, whatever, right? Like, we don't even have a mission statement because I'm like, you know what, just show me, because this is just fluff, right? This doesn't mean anything. So I've been kind of really thinking about how to always make sure that the team is involved in the success and they understand that it's not just about you do a good job because the boss is watching, but do a good job so our clients are happy and we can continue to grow the business and what that means for them and not what does that mean for me, and I think that's a good path to go down.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the goals we were talking about on the top of our show. Like, we don't need to be like, oh, let's try to make everybody give us a 5-star review. Obviously, we want that, but it's like, all right, let's set goals where it's like, I mean, one we currently kind of talked about maybe a month or two ago is like, all right, let's try to set a goal where it's, if we get X amount of clients by this month or this date, and we can create this revenue from these type of clients, we'll fly to Costa Rica for a week and just hang out. We'll stay at Molly's and just like brainstorm together in person and drink Jameson and see what else we can create in our company. Just like kind of like small stuff like that inevitably leads to that big goal that she's talking about, where everybody's kind of in a really good spot financially and doing this and the other and just kind of chipping away at it. Like, let's put a little token at the end of like a set goal right here, like a week in Costa Rica. We'll kind of block off the calendar a little bit, not do any clients for a couple of days and just brainstorm, have a good time and let loose a little, but at the same time, just keep figuring out new ways to build a company.
Yeah.
Well, I hope you guys hit that goal because I love that. And again, Jameson's involved again, so it's gonna it's good. It's gonna be a good time. I haven't read that book, but it is such a common sense thing. It's like there's nothing to be ashamed of having revenue goals, having income goals. It's why you go to work. So. To be ashamed or we don't talk about that. Why? This is something to absolutely address. We had our top earnings. And by the way, that allowed us to give back X amount. We helped the world by creating our service. Like, I never understood that. So I love that you guys are doing that. I want to ask just the open-ended question where I didn't know enough to ask you guys. And you're like, JM, we have to get this to the audience before we start to kind of dwindle down our episode. What didn't I know enough to ask you guys?
Oh, I don't know. This is a great interview. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I would say if you're a little overwhelmed with all the noise, right? If people aren't sure what to do, hit us up, man. I'll do a discovery call with you. I'll look at your website, all your content, and I'll give you a little audit and some advice on what I think would be helpful and effective for people. And I'll happily do that for free for anybody who's interested in that. But other than that, we really don't have an ask. We just want to continue to work with great businesses. We want to continue to nurture the relationships with our clients. We got 2 emails on Monday morning, or I don't know, maybe it was Thursday morning, that said, we're super happy with everything. Thank you so much. 2 emails in one morning. That's what we really love. So, if you're looking for a podcast production company that wants to work hard for you, then hit me up.
And we're not just podcasts. So that's what a lot of people will see. And a lot of people think we'll build your website for you. You want an audio book, we'll do it for you. I mean, there are instances where we are on site doing stuff for people. We're not completely remote technically. I've gone in the city a few times every few months and record some stuff and help out that way. We still have a weekly show we do in the city at a wine bar, and do those podcasts that way. And it's great.
Yeah, we do live streams with the mayor's office. So we got our hands in a lot of things. So
But what is also remarkable about what you said, though, is we don't chase that shiny object. And that's not easy, you guys. I'll being someone that loves to chase this stuff where I'm like, oh, that sounds awesome. That sounds awesome. Because that all sounds awesome. How do you keep yourselves from doing that? Because it's a skill. It's not something that I think comes easily to most, especially entrepreneurs like myself. How do you keep that in check? Because I think that is something that has come through as well as a theme, that you know what you're great at. You're going to continue down that path, and you do stay focused. How do you guys do that? Because it's a skill.
Well, why? But with the shiny object, it's probably something that's really difficult in a way because it's that great. And so why, if we're so good at kind of what we do and we think we are, why try to do something brand new that we don't know much about? And that could cause an issue like that puts us in a situation where we might screw something up for a client. If we try to do something we're not good at. That's kind of the way I see it a little bit, but I'm sure Molly will have a much better explanation about it, doing it all.
Well, and for me, right, as the conductor of all this, right, it's and I think I mentioned to you on our last podcast, but I formed the business and had a business partner who was like, had the CMO and the this and the, MBA and all that. And she lasted 6 weeks. And then I thought, well, shoot, I'm really good at audio and video and marketing and all these things, but I do not have an MBA. I do not have those skills. Leadership wasn't even a word that was in my atmosphere whatsoever, And so I figured, well, I better educate myself. And so I read 135 books on business development in the last 4 years. And some personal development, because you can't have one without a little bit of the other. And that's where I learned how terrible of a leader I had been. But the biggest lesson was take the straightest path to the money. Take the straightest path to the money. And that's the thing that always echoes in my head when people are like, create a Facebook group and create a community. I'm like, that is not the straightest path to the money. It's manipulation. It's not a community. It's a group of people you're going to sell to. That is also not the straightest path to the money. Could we start a Threads account? Yes. Is that going to help us get payroll this week? No. Right. And so it's a little cold maybe, and it might sound a little capitalistic, but as a business owner, we can't afford to chase down things that aren't going to work. We need money coming in. We need revenue. And so that's the thing that always echoes in my head when I find myself, because I'm a tech person. I build studios, multiple studios. Like I run the equipment. Like when Matt's on site and something's not working, he's calling me. Like I love shiny new objects and technology, but like, not today, man. Like I gotta focus on closing this deal, pitching this proposal, keeping my clients happy, and that's not gonna get me there.
Yeah, that's actually the mantra, or the thought process is really good. Like straightest path to the money. It makes sense. I mean, you're running a business. That makes total sense. You guys are awesome. I love for the audience to check you out. Where would be the best place to connect with either Molly or Matt or both online? What's best place to find you guys?
The website, heartcastmedia.com. All of our links are there. And then of course you can always find us on LinkedIn, and you could Google our names and find us easy, but we'd love for you to check out the website, see the work we're doing, book a discovery call with us. We've got case studies on there. You can see the content we make. And as I mentioned, happy to do any sort of discovery call with anybody that wants some feedback on their stuff. I kind of love it, like speed dating, but for marketing. And I've been saying this for years, like, give me 15 minutes, tell me about your business. I can tell you like 10 ways a podcast will make you money. Like it's my Rain Man brain a little bit, but I love that stuff. So the website.
Well, you guys, I love the background, Molly. As I told you when I was on, I just got back from Costa Rica not long ago, so I'm a bit envious of where you're sitting, but thank you guys for coming. You guys are awesome, and I just appreciate your time and all the knowledge that you brought.
Thank you. Thank you for having us. You're great. We were both really excited about this.
Yeah. Yep. Jumped in a little. Yeah. We're excited. So thank you so much.
It's truly my pleasure. You guys, look, you've heard me talk about how much I love podcasting. They're literally, Molly's like, hey, give me 15 minutes. Let me show you how it could possibly, even if you've never considered it. This is the favorite thing that I do every single day is podcasts. And if it generates more business for your business, why not? Go check them out. Make sure to share this. Get Heartcast Media out there. Let people know about it. These are two really cool people that love what they do, and all of us need that in our life. So share this episode out. And until next time, remember, your mindset matters. I appreciate you all. We'll talk soon. Thank you so much for listening. If this content is delivering value to you, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us. That helps us build this community, and that is what we are all about. Building this community as big as we can, helping as many people as we can, and deliver as much value as possible. Be sure to head over to letsgowinpodcast.com for information on my coaching courses, and make sure to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Let's Go Win 365. Let's go win and transcend in life.
This is the Let's Go Win podcast with your host, JM Ryerson.